And we have got Kay on the line. Kay, how is it going in Maryland?
It is going very well. What a beautiful day down here.
It is fantastic, and thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me and the people watching. I know you've got a lot of great advice to give to budding documentary filmmakers and writers. So first of all, tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up and how you came to be here.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I went to undergraduate at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. I did my graduate degree at University of Notre Dame in Indiana. And
wow.
It was there that I decided I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. I was on the track towards academia, and someone asked me to be in a film. I've never acted before, and so I said, yes, why not? And being in this film made me realize that perhaps there's another way to tell stories. I said, I really want to go to film school. I don't know how. I don't know how you go about the process of doing that. I just knew I wanted to do it. I heard about this film contest, and they were looking for the next emerging Black filmmaker. And first place was a full scholarship to attend the New York Film Academy, as well as assistance with moving to New York and making a film. Well, I submitted my film idea with this very short kind of these clips I put together, very, very amateurish, and lo and behold, I won first place.
Fantastic.
And I said, wow, I'm moving to New York to attend the New York Film Academy, and I had this Emerging Black Filmmakers Award. It was such an exciting time in my life, and I moved up in 1994 to attend the New York Film Academy.
Kudos to you for having the courage to grab it by the horns and move up there. That's fantastic. So prior to joining the New York Film Academy, you were a writer. You did kind of dabble in academia and things like that. Did you find filmmaking and writing and working in a university, was it hard to juggle, or did it all kind of feed into each other quite well?
I think it all fed into each other quite well. Prior to the New York Film Academy, I had been making my living as a poet in D.C.
Okay.
I had been submitting screenplays to the Sundance Screenplay Contest. I'd been a finalist at least twice. I had won a screenplay writing award in Washington, D.C. And so I felt that it was all coming together. At this time, I was what you would call a graduate student forever. I never wanted to get out of college. I just wanted to continue to pursue knowledge in whatever way that meant. Filmmaking was not something I thought about. It was not something I thought I could ever do. I think it was coming to the New York Film Academy that made me realize that you can expand the definition of being an artist. It's not just about being able to paint or running the camera, but every time you express yourself, that is a form of art.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that you didn't want to win that scholarship initially. Were you still trepidatious? Were you still trepidatious when you moved to New York, or at that point did you think, you know, I've been recognized, I can do this?
I was still quite trepidatious. I
Right.
did not know what to do, but what I did know is that opportunities come before you, and that what sets what I think ordinary people apart from extraordinary people is not that you have more talent or more opportunity.
Sure.
Is that every time you're met with an opportunity, you take advantage of it. I said, I'm going to move to New York. I didn't have a place to live. I said, I don't have a job. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. I said, but I think this is going to work out. I want to jump out here and try it with the hope that it has to come together. And when I read up on the New York Film Academy, I said, okay, I can't go wrong here. No matter what happened, I'm going to land somewhere with more skills and more opportunities to do something better.
Coming from a history of being a bit of a lone wolf, I think it'd be fair to say, was it
Yeah.
nice being around other like-minded people?
It was. I found an amazing community at the New York Film Academy with people from all over the world who just wanted to find ways to express themselves or to bring light into what we consider to be dark places.
Yeah, we're very proud of our international student base. We get people from all walks of life kind of come to the Academy, which is superb. And it's good to kind of borrow off different worldviews and ideals. And I just think it makes the courses way more interesting when you've got all these different ideas and stories to tell.
That's why I wanted to be a historian. I wanted to be a historian to turn this lens away from what we consider to be the center of the world and expand it. America is not, I love my country, but we're not the center of the world. We're one of the many countries that make this planet move forward. And being in that program in Indiana and then coming to the New York Film Academy made me realize that there are views that are happening all over the world that are just as important and significant as mine. And I wanted to be a part of those conversations.
I also think that it's been a really good decade for documentary film. There's been so many great stories being told, often by amateurs or people with very, very little budget. How did you feel New York Film Academy helped you kind of tell your stories?
Well, when I got there, at that time at New York Film Academy, you actually could look at a number of different tracks. I knew I wanted to do documentary
Hmm.
filmmaking, but they also felt, my professor said, well, you also need to be trained as a narrative filmmaker. You also have to learn the equipment, which was new for me. You have to learn how to work the camera. You have to learn how to work the audio. One of the things that I think that New York Film Academy did best, and they did first, is they taught you how to be a backpack filmmaker,
Yes,
which meant
yeah.
you knew how to use every piece of equipment. So if you didn't have anybody else with you, you knew how to fix your audio. You knew how to actually cut film. I mean, I remember
Mm.
working on the Steam Deck, and the first time I actually cut through one of my little pieces here, and I was screaming, and my professor said, "But that happens. You won't do it again.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
learned from experience, and that's what we teach you here. You learn it by doing it."
Yeah, and it's all about taking that knowledge and being ready to cope with any situation out in the field, long after you graduate. And on that note, what advice or what lessons did you gain from the New York Film Academy that you are practicing now in your working career?
Well, quite a few things from that time in my life, which I consider to be a very important time, and I speak about it all the time. I learned that everybody has a story to tell,
Hmm.
and that even if the story is not the same story that you have to tell, it's just as valid. It's just as important.
I couldn't
I
agree
learned
more.
that you can be a jack of all trades and a master of one. I used to believe it was either one or the other. The New York Film Academy taught me you can know how to work the camera and the audio and still be a superb director. That you
Yes,
don't have
yeah.
to give up the camera just so you can be the director. You should know how to work everything. The New York Film Academy taught me how to work as a team. I had, as you said before, been a lone wolf.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize and realize how important it was to rely and depend upon my camera person and to expect them to know just as much as I do, if not more in some cases. I also learned from New York Film Academy, and this is one of those life lessons that you really can't put down in the book.
Sure.
I learned about having grit. I've spent years trying to quantify what grit is and trying to figure out where did I get it from. And I look back to my time at the New York Film Academy and that idea of learning how to survive off of almost nothing
Mm.
and still
Yeah.
being able to do good work. I did not have a job when I was in New York. I did not have money when I was in New York, but I had this desire to want to learn how to do this. And they taught me that. I mean, we would get together as students, and somebody would have bread, and somebody would have cheese, and somebody would have mayonnaise, and we would make sandwiches for everybody.
You've got a
We
party
were
going
never,
on right there. Yeah.
you wouldn't have a lot of food, but you would have a lot of creative people.
A lot of people would have shared the same fears as you when you first started out. I've got no money. How am I ever going to make a film without any cash? I don't have any expertise, that kind of thing. What would you say to them? Or what would you say to yourself if you could go back?
If I could go back and give myself advice, I would say you have to trust two things. You have to trust yourself,
Yeah.
that you do have the skills you need to survive. And you have to trust the New York Film Academy, that they're going to make sure that you are going to be okay. I had professors who would give me $10 here or $15 there when I said, I don't have anything to eat
They
tonight.
are good like that.
They're
Yeah.
very good like that. I was never by myself. That is that thing about finding community, that once you find your community, they're going to make sure that you make it through and that you're okay. So if you trust yourself and you trust the program and you trust the professors, I think you will be okay. You'll end up on the other side much more prepared to be able to go out into the world.
I think in the forge of creativity, there's a lot of brilliant movies that are made in the spirit of teamwork and camaraderie. And similarly, there's plenty of flops and projects that have just fallen apart completely just because people have wanted to take it all on themselves, not like you say, not trusting your cameraman, not trusting your dolly grip or whoever it may be on set. So, yeah, I think that's a really important lesson.
It's interesting because the film that I wrote and I edited and produced and directed was my film Composition, a 30-minute film, and it looked at the life of an African American female and male who were in a relationship where there was domestic violence. I mean, Compositions, it wasn't an excellent film. It was a good film. It was actually sold to BET Films. It aired on television quite a few times. But that film is really what helped me get my start in television.
What would you say to students who feel that their initial project, like Compositions, maybe is too ambitious or tackling a topic that's really heavy or really quite adventurous? I mean, what would you say? Just get on and do it. Have that grit.
I would say take the grit and get on and do it.
Right.
Everybody can do a love story.
Yeah.
And there are thousands of love stories out here. Everyone can do a comedy. There are thousands of comedies out here.
Sure.
What are you saying that's different? What's interesting is that when I finished compositions, and they had this contest at Cannes at that time, they would have what you call the Dead Zone Hour.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they would take student film projects at Cannes. So there would be films airing 24 hours a day. So my film composition got into the Dead Zone Hour. And I would say there were probably, and I could be overestimating, I think there were 5 people in the theater at 12 o'clock at night. And that's 5, including my mom and I. 2 women came in. And they came in and they sat directly behind us. And they talked the whole time about how bad my film was.
Oh, no.
And they were like, oh, this is just horrible.
Oh, that's
this
destroying.
filmmaker, oh, it's horrible. But the woman kept saying, this filmmaker has talent. She's obviously been to film school. She needs some real world experience. And that's what she kept saying. So when the film ended, all of 30 minutes, the lights go on, and she then leaned over our chairs and said, that was horrible. What did you think of it? And I said, when I made it, I really liked it when I made it. And she said, oh, you need some real world experience. And she said, you really have talent. Where did you go to film school? I said, I went to the New York Film Academy. I said, I was well trained. I said, but I haven't worked in the business. I mean, the compositions was my first exercise. She said, well, obviously you've been well trained.
Yeah.
Take this phone number, call my best friend, and she'll give you a job.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I got back to America, and my mom said, are you going to call? I said, well, why don't I try? I mean, I have no idea who this is, but as my professor said, you won't even know until you try. You might as well jump out there and see what happens. I did call the number. The woman's best friend happened to be Judith McGrath, who was the president of MTV at that time. And I started as an associate producer at MTV less than a week later. And the woman says, I know New York Film Academy. I know you're trained. We're going to start you as an associate producer, not as a PA.
Wow.
I started as an associate producer, and I started working on MTV Jams with Bill Bellamy. That is how I cut my teeth in the television business.
That just goes to show, what happens when you just do rather than overthink constantly.
I think it also speaks to the name and the reputation of New York Film Academy.
Sure.
Because the idea that they knew I was well trained, they could see that in my film. So I worked on MTV Jams. I worked on Puff Daddy's first television show, Puff Daddy's House. I worked on the Pinfield Suite. Yeah. I helped to build out the studio when we hired Carson Daly. So, but in my heart, I really wanted to tell stories. And I remember when I got a phone call, and it was someone calling from Metro Television. At that point, they were kind of loosely affiliated with PBS. So it was Metro Television. And the guy there said, I met someone who attended New York Film Academy. I'm looking for a new, he said, I'm looking for a senior producer to bring in-house who can eventually do documentaries. Would you be interested in coming in and taking a look and seeing if you like it? I went in, I took a look, I got hired there a week later. They tripled my salary from MTV, and I went over to Metro Television to be a senior producer. I started doing live television, and I had an opportunity to do documentaries. And so it was at Metro Television that 3 of my documentaries were nominated for New York Emmys.
I was about to say, your move into documentary filmmaking has just gone swimmingly. I mean, you've knocked it out of the park with the award nominations. The response to them has been... It's been powerful, if I was going to choose a word. Tell us a little bit about your films that you've released so far.
Okay, so the biggest film, and the one that people will probably recognize, is called Twin Towers: A History.
Yes.
And it is the second largest selling film about 9/11. When I produced and directed this film, it's interesting, and I can, again, harp on my New York Film Academy experience, because when the towers came down on 9/11, I went to the executive producer on 9/13 and said, I want to do a documentary about the Twin Towers. I said, we have to move now.
But it was 2003 by the time the film came out, which was way ahead of, Hollywood and all the major hitters getting on the scene.
We moved fast.
Yeah.
We moved fast. 2003 is when it was nominated for the New York Emmy. But what's interesting is that when he said to me, how quickly can you do it? He said, I'd like to have something, even if it's not where you're going to eventually end up, can you get a 1-hour documentary together for me that we can air sooner rather than later? And I said, you know what? This is what we do. I said, I learned at the New York Film Academy, we can produce work very quickly. Give me a crew. I only need 4 people. and we can
get
get
it
this
done.
done.
Yeah.
And we can get it done. I said, I need 4 people who are well trained, but we can get this done if they're hungry. 3 months later, my film Twin Towers of History, the first cut of it, did air on Metro Television. And it was the first airing of a film about 9/11. It had the highest ratings for our station.
Well, that's an amazing turnaround, and I have seen it. I watched it at the weekend, and you couldn't tell it was made in just 3 months with 4 people. I mean, that is incredible.
Thank you. I think a lot of this harps back to the training. I
Yeah.
think that if you learn how to produce with few people, but all with people who are very well trained, I think you can move mountains. And that's something that I have taken with me from the New York Film Academy. You don't need 15 people to move a mountain. You just need 4 hungry, well trained people, and you can begin to move mountains.
Superb. And book writing as well. You've just had your second book out now, and you had one earlier in the year in February. How's that all going? You're a lady of many talents.
I am, or I like to think I am anyway. But my new book, which is called Notes from a Colored Girl, The Civil War Pocket Diaries of Emily Frances Davis, it was the basis of my dissertation. So this book is based upon the 1863 to 1865 diaries of a free Black woman who lived in Philadelphia. And so the book came out May 13th, and I'm very happy to say that the day it came out, it already had 553 pre-orders.
Oh,
fantastic. So the book is selling, and I want to encourage people to get it because it really is about finding new work. Emily Frances Davis is a new voice. Help me help her find her place in the world.
Absolutely. And on that note, you can find links to all of Kay's work down in the description box below. So do check that all out. People may be wondering, so Kay, I love filming. I'm a dab hand behind the camera, but I've never been a good writer. Should that deter them from going on to documentary filmmaking?
It should not deter them at all, because storytelling doesn't have to be something you put on paper. Storytelling is something you can do with your camera. Storytelling is something you can do with your music. Storytelling is something you can do with your editing.
Yeah.
I would say if writing is not your forte, if you're at the New York Film Academy, there are some good writers there. Do what I did. Find yourself a good team. Find yourself a good writer. Find yourself someone who's really good with audio. Find yourself a good lighting person. And the 4 of you can go out and make some very strong movies, and you can change lives. I think that's what it's ultimately about. Do you have a story? Are you the person who's supposed to tell that story? Can you find people who agree with your story? And then can you go out and change lives? And I think that at the New York Film Academy, the community you have there, you can find someone to join up with you. And together you can do some great things.
Well, if anyone's interested, take a little look at our blog, again, linked in the description box below, because the work that's coming out from both the students and the graduates, just the variety of stories that are being told, the way that they're being told, is just incredible.
I always check in at the New York Film Academy to see what students are up to. The students are leaps and bounds ahead of where we were when we were in film school. But this idea that filmmaking only belongs to people who have the money to fund it. Yeah. Those days are gone.
Well, self-publishing and distribution has gotten a lot easier than when you were at film school. Literally anybody can get into this. So.
Yeah. That's why I think that the New York Film Academy was leaps and bounds ahead. Because what they're doing today and what everyone else is attempting to do is what New York Film Academy mastered years ago. This idea of pulling people from everywhere, teaching them how to tell their stories, giving them the tools they need, and then sending them out in the streets to get it done. People are rushing to catch up to something that New York Film Academy has already perfected.
I think we've pretty much gotten to the end. Is there any closing advice you'd like to offer people who are thinking about or are already kind of beginning their journey with the New York Film Academy?
Well, if you're beginning your journey with the New York Film Academy, my advice to you would be stick with it. Stick with it, trust the professors, and trust the program. They know what they're doing. If you follow their advice, and you continue to grow and be pushed along the path, you will come out the other end much more prepared to make a difference in this world. If you're sitting on the fence and you're thinking about applying to the New York Film Academy, I don't understand what you're doing with your life.
Absolutely.
Get off the fence.
Yeah.
Jump into the program, do it, take that leap, and I'm telling you, there's nothing like leaping into the deep end of the pool, because if you don't know how to swim, there'll be someone from the New York Film Academy to either teach you how to swim or pull you out of the water. Either way, you can't lose.
Absolutely, and you never know, you might get offered a random job at MTV, so...
And your life will go in a different direction.
So just do it. Kay, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We wish you all the continued success from everyone here at the New York Film Academy, and we will definitely hook up for that coffee soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for contacting me. I love the New York Film Academy, and I'm happy to be associated with it.
No, thank you, Kay. And once again, you can check out all of Kay's fantastic work down in the description box below. And do remember to subscribe to this channel so that you can hear more future interviews like this. It's always a pleasure to chat to our alumni, especially people who are doing such amazing work as Kay. So do hit that subscribe button, give this a thumbs up if you found this advice useful, and drop us a comment in the box below. Ciao.
Ciao.